Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Today we have with us Shawn from Full Moon Crafting Studios. So let's just say hello to everyone in the chat, and Shawn, then you can tell us a bit about yourself and what you've been up to. Okay?
Okay, I've been playing role-playing games for at least over 30 years.
Oh, okay.
As an adult, I was a soldier in the U.S. Army. That's the career I chose. And now that I'm retired, I started to actually invest into making the terrain and stuff like that instead of just doing theater of the mind. And really came about because my kids started getting into playing Dungeons and Dragons, and
Okay.
hey, Dad's been playing for a while, and since today is Father's Day, I had to give the explanation of why I got back into the hobby, and now it's exploded. So
Well, happy Father's Day to you and any other fathers watching. And if you haven't said happy Father's Day to your dads today, maybe you probably should. So, quick hello to everyone in the chat. Hi Charlene, hi Cross, hi Jagelsdorf, hi Dungeon Matron, hi Earthman Brick, and hi Lawrence Davis. Hope you're all doing great. So, Shawn, you've been DMing for all of the 30 years, or is that something you started doing later?
well, like when I started, it was just me and my friends. I actually got started playing Dungeons and Dragons on Boy Scout campouts.
Really?
It was
Alright.
something to do at night, and that was all theater of the mind, and it exploded from there. So it's just for a while I was learning to DM and doing all that stuff, but my career took precedence. So
Yeah,
I
obviously.
actually played DDO, which is Dungeons and Dragons Online,
Okay.
which is a 3.5 is the version they use. I think they may have updated it to 5th edition by now, but I played on that for a lot. It was my
Was it
D&D fix.
was that
It's
an
called DDO,
online service, or
Dungeons
is
and
it like a World of Warcraft or something like that?
it's like World of Warcraft, but
Ah,
it's
right.
Dungeons and Dragons. Um, it looks identical to World of Warcraft, I guess. I don't know. I never really played that game, so can't tell you.
Yeah, I played it for about 2 weeks, almost non-stop in, I want to say 2024. That was my, yeah, okay, I had 2 weeks of this. I'm not touching it again, ever.
Yes, highly addictive gaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I started DMing and really started like honing the craft of DMing and like the storytelling side of it to give everybody that sense of look, touch, taste, where during the gameplay they're able to truly imagine it. You know what I mean? Like it's there. It's not just um a theater of the mind at that point where you correlate all the senses. Like I started burning incense and changing the lighting and doing things like that to submerge my players into playing the game. And then when it was all said and done, everybody had a good time, and just moved on. It was great. Um, I'd say about 2015, I
Okay.
started DMing at a place called Frontline Games in Clarksville, Tennessee. They're right outside of Fort Campbell there, and excuse me, and a good wholesome family environment there, and that's really where I started to really hone my DM skills of dealing with just perfect strangers, not just my friends. So
All right.
it's been an exciting journey.
That's something I've never tried. I'm imagining it would be very different than playing with a circle of people that you already know.
Yes. Usually though, it was because it was first come, first serve at the
Hmm.
tables of like who the DM was. And I had signed up on one of the days that I was there doing it. There's 20 people signed up, and I was only running, one campaign. So it was kind of like I had to pick and choose, you know. So it was kind of bad.
Oh, well.
But
So right now, I know you best for your horror games. Is that your main genre, or do you DM other games?
I can DM other games. I personally don't like the normal fantasy. Um, to me, Dungeons and Dragons was meant to be scary. You know,
It's kind of in the name,
it
yeah.
was, yeah. The hero doesn't always succeed in context of, killing the dragon or whatever. They might die killing the dragon. So it was kind of like one of those type of things that I believe in like 92 or maybe 90 between 90 and 92. I really got into Ravenloft, which
Oh, okay.
is gothic horror. And that really set me on precedence of how I DM today, with the gothic horror style. And, I've always liked scary movies. So it allowed me to take some of the things that you may see in those movies and correlate them into the game to where it it's changed to fit the narrative of the game, but like the box from Hellraiser is still the box from Hellraiser, you
Okay,
know,
yeah.
that type of thing. Which, it can make for an interesting game.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I sat on one of your games for a few minutes. Unfortunately, it was stupid o'clock in the morning here, so I couldn't stay for very long. But it was spooky, and the players definitely were having fun.
Oh yes. It's really good when your players, like for myself, when the players start taking where they're talking to each other and I'm just there basically just sitting there doing nothing. It'd be 20 minutes of them just discussing what they're going to do next. But they're talking as their characters, not as individuals playing a character, if that makes sense.
So you
They're
don't.
actually immersing themselves
Yeah,
into acting
exactly.
portion of it.
That's what I was going to say.
So
They're really immersed in the story, so you're doing your job right.
yes, and that's how I like to play all my games. I'm probably one of the worst players ever out there because I think of like off the wall things to do. Like if there's a woolly mammoth and everybody's trying to attack it, I'll try to climb on it. That's just me.
That sounds like something I would do. Yeah,
Yeah.
or try to
So I
befriend
mean,
it. Yeah.
yeah, try to while somebody's trying to befriend it, you're climbing on top of to break it. So now you can ride a mammoth everywhere. Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want
that's
that?
my style. Yeah. Who wouldn't like that?
Okay, Dungeon Mate's been saying, I agreed zombies should be terrifying. That's kind of their point, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of when I DM, because I've spent a lot of my time reading books and learning history and just immersing myself into the way things were in history,
Hmm.
where I can take that type of thing, like the folklore, especially. One of the models that I am now able to sell is made by the print goes ever on. It's gothic horror slash oh, what do you call that? Folklore of southern or Eastern Europe.
Oh,
So
alright.
you have Strigoi instead of the normal vampire, which that's where the legend of the vampire comes from, but was changed by Bram Stoker to make it more romanticized, not a creature that comes out of the crypt every night that's, nasty and gross and looking for blood. We have what we depict in the West as being the vampire of, the guy who sits wearing a suit and doing all this and then retreats to his coffin every night. It's a little, the folklore is a little different,
Yeah,
but it
they,
gives,
he had to sell books, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but it gives by learning the folklore and stuff like that, it's giving me the opportunity to run games that are scary because it's based off of something that people may actually know a little bit about.
Yeah, and
So
I know you picked up on a lot of American folklore as well, and that's pretty rich too.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. That's one of the really cool things of learning about the folklore that's evolved here in the United States from the native tribes to the Europeans that came over, there's such a mixture of folklore. It makes it extremely fun because I've introduced Wendigos into my campaigns, and I don't introduce them as the monsters that a lot of people depict. I base them off of Lakota legends and different things like that, where they look like me and you,
All right.
but they would, they were survivors of people that starved to death. And the
Hmm.
way they survived is they started to eat other people. So it kind of gives that, real creepy factor, as well as there's a proozone that if people were to actually ingest human brains, that takes over and they get twitches and they move funny and that kind of thing.
All right.
Which there's a zombie. That's actually where from depending on what folklore, that's what a zombie was. And then you also have the Haitian zombie, which is a mindless living zombie, which is interesting in itself. It makes for really interesting gameplay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could dig into any one of those lores in particular, and you have material for years.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could do a Town of the Damned where um, I remember seeing a movie when I was a kid. It's called Jim Cotta, like Gym. It was just a really weird movie of people like in Eastern Europe going through like this trial of, I don't know, like different fighting styles, but they had to like run it was a obstacle course, but the obstacle course, they had to go into a Town of the Damned, where that idea today of a city that's completely walled in and they stick people in there because, they're not all there, can be very dark, because
Oh,
that's where
yeah.
you can have the mindless zombie types, um, because what are they eating? It gives that real kind of that scary taboo of cannibalism, as well as the horror side of the the living dead.
Yeah, I think that's one of the points where some players might be like, I think I spotted a plot hole, and they're like, oh wait, nope, 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 nope.
Yeah. I do have to put disclaimers of, to make sure people are okay with the level of scary or horror type, and my games may not be for them.
Did you ever have any
Um,
trouble with that?
yes, I did. I unfortunately had a gentleman that was playing in my game and seemed like everything was good to go. Did not know that he was schizoaffective,
Okay.
and my game had caused him to spiral. Even though I don't believe he was taking his medication regularly. It caused him to spiral to actually think that, people were going to come get him.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and as soon as I found out, it was immediate, hey, you can't play in the game. I'm sorry. And I would spend time talking to him, outside of the game, to make sure that he was okay. You know, just do what I can to help.
Yeah, that's good. But yeah, like you said, the disclaimer might cut out some of the problems that might come through.
Oh, most definitely.
So let's see. Lawrence Davis saying that only counts as one. That still only counts as one. I think he's talking about the woolly mammoth.
Oh yeah.
Jagersdorf,
Um,
Slavic folklore represent. Yeah.
yes. Um, with the different things that I'll give me 1 second. I'll grab a model and show
Sure.
you.
Take your time. Earthman Big, the movie The Serpent and the Rainbow, shows the traditional zombies. I haven't watched that, but I'll look that up. Have you ever heard of a movie called The Serpent and the Rainbow?
Yes,
Alright,
it's about Haitian zombies.
alright,
It was made in like 84, 85,
alright.
I believe.
Yeah, Earthman Big just recommended it.
Oh yeah, it's actually about a reporter that went to investigate on. It's based off a true story. Um, of course, it's Hollywooded up. But so here is what they call a noon wraith. She was a test print,
All right.
and this is what the peasants feared most because she was a wraith that would come out during the day and kill the farmer in the field.
Okay. Is that like the noon rate in the Witcher games, or was that something else entirely?
Actually, the noon wraith in the Witcher is actually part of Slavic folklore.
All right.
So, um, and that's very similar too, except that this one is a little bit prettier, I guess, in context. Um,
Okay. Speaking of prints, you've got a. I think I'm not going to call it a printer addiction, but you seem to have quite a collection going.
yes, they're right over there. Yeah, they start to. You find out that the printer you got's a good printer, everything's good, but you try to print something that's just a little bit bigger, and then it doesn't work. So then you get a printer that like, oh, this one will work, and it prints it fine. And then they come out with another printer that you can print a whole building instead of just, you know, pieces of the building. So it was kind of like one of those like, okay, I need to be able to do this, but in the process of doing so, it allows me to print, stuff for if somebody wants a particular type of model for a particular type of campaign, I can print that for them and go from there. It just I'm not in it to make a lot of money, if that makes sense. I'm in it just to help people find the things that they can't find.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
that's not something you should be doing for free anyway, because that still involves expenses.
oh yes, but in the same context, I'm looking at getting one of the 3D cameras, so you can take a photo, or
All
I'm
right.
not quite. I'm learning about them, but where I can take the stuff I create and turning it into an STL file and be able to utilize that. Because I mean, I'm not the best at making stuff, but I do make some creepy things.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely you do. We'll take a look at some of them soon.
Yes.
Speaking of those, I think it was a few years ago. I know for sure that Joe from Encounter Train is running a service which basically scans people mostly.
Hmm.
Okay, Mike from Net One Videos recently did a video on that, and a few years ago I
Okay.
did a video about scanning stuff using a regular camera and some software.
Oh, okay.
If you can get a 3D camera, I wouldn't recommend it because it takes quite a bit of time to take all the photos and scan it. So an actual 3D camera is much faster. But if you're not planning to get a 3D camera, it's a much cheaper alternative because you can do it with a mobile phone.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But you're definitely trading time for money there.
Yeah, and I personally, it's just I'll save up to get one, myself. That's just the way that I am because it's easier to have the right equipment. Like to learn how to use your cell phone to do it is, a good backup plan. But having the actual piece of equipment that does it would allow me to do it a little bit quicker.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
if because I make everything on demand. I don't just make it, I make a bunch of things for to sell or whatever. It's on demand. So if somebody um wants that particular model, it takes me a little time because I print the model, and if it doesn't look right to me, I reprint the model, and I reprint the model, and I reprint the model until it's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
it's not a order today, get it tomorrow. So, but
Spe-
usually the people that order from me are very they understand that it takes time. and they appreciate the quality that I put into and effort that I put into the stuff. So
Speaking of, did you mention that you also have, sorry, you also license uh, models from other modelers to sell on demand?
yes, I have licensure to sell. The Print Goes On, Grand Grimoire,
Mm-hmm.
and if quite a few others. Unfortunately, though, you can't sell Loot Studio models. Um, Now, if somebody were to ask me for my time and pay for resin, then yeah, of course, I print them something that I don't have license for because I'm just printing it for them. They're paying me for my time, not for the model itself, meaning that they'd have to have the model, the STL file before I
Yeah, this
print
makes
it.
sense.
It's just like it's the same thing as if you go to a 3D a store that has
Yeah,
3D
exactly.
printers in it and you print them right there. It's the same concept. I just do it from the luxury of my house, which, if anybody's wondering, this actually was a dining room
Oh, wow.
at one point,
That I think
and
that
now it is my crafting area.
went through some heavy remodeling, I think.
No, it really didn't. We
No?
moved, and this is a new home for me,
Oh, okay.
and there's another dining room. This is supposed to
Ah,
be
okay.
a formal dining room, I guess is what they call it. And it's like my crafting room because I can close doors and segregate it from the rest of the house so
F
that when I'm doing my thing, the kids can do their thing
Formal
and not
dining
have
room, is
to.
that like the place you open up only once every few years when someone important comes along and no one ever really uses it?
Yeah, or the holidays when family comes in from out of town, that kind of thing, where nobody actually sits at the table until it's those events. I mean, that's how it was when I was growing up as a kid. You didn't get to sit. You get to sit at the normal kitchen table while the adults sat at the nice table. You know, the kids' table. I still remember it.
Yeah. So apart from 3D printing, though, you also do quite a lot of crafting yourself and toy modifications, don't you?
Yes. Um, I'll cast stuff. I needed an undead treant um in one of my games and looked everywhere for the model.
Tell you what,
Couldn't
let's jump
find.
into your
Okay.
shots so we can talk about them while we look at them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, hang on a second. Boom. There we go.
Okay.
So let's see.
Okay. This set that you're seeing right here is this past Friday's set.
Okay.
That was the set piece. What I do is I set up my camera on it, and I just remove the miniatures off of it and put other train pieces out there to factor in. But
This is
this
for
was the set.
your online games, right? Like the scene you
Yes,
show your players.
yes, and that's a close up of the little. Those are actually little army men that are skeletons that I got at the Dollar General, I believe it was during the holiday season. They were $1. You get a package of them. I bought quite a few packages, and well, probably five, and cut them up and to make them into what I need them for skeletons. Um, so there's that, and those are also part of the challenge that we're doing for the tea bag challenge.
Ah, okay.
Um,
So that
those
fabric thing.
Yeah, the fabric is an actual tea bag, so
All right.
and it's a good play. So I enjoy it.
Okay. This is your first resin pour, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that is my first resin pour of that size. That is the actual piece of swamp terrain that you were looking at with the trees and the skeletons on it. I just had the camera zoomed in to where I wanted it. So it allows me to, with online gaming, it allows me to do that where I can, take a piece of that and narrow it down to where I can show that scene, but I have it on Lazy Susan,
Mm-hmm.
so I can, you know, cut the camera feed for a moment and just turn the terrain and
All
put
right.
new stuff on like the left or right or the far back of it, and it changes the scene completely, but it still has the same look. The ground does, so there's no change in the ground texture.
Okay, yeah, I get you. That's a clever way of doing it, though. I think you mentioned that you wanted to get some, what do you call them? Cranes or rails or something for the camera to get to pull off
Yeah,
some more effect.
I'm working on coming up with a design to take like a basic web camera and have it hooked to um like a some sort of track where I can move it around, or like a boom arm where I can
Mm-hmm.
move the camera back and forth and turn it. And so that I'll at that point, when I'm able to do that, when I change the scene of how I do the setup, I literally just turn the camera. So I could have three different sets on that, like that piece right there. I could have three different small sets where all I'm doing is turning the camera
Huh.
instead of having to, move the camera, resituate it, make sure it's focused, do all this and that. All it literally is a pan to the left or a pan to the right, and it gives the same effect.
Nice. I mean, I know you put a lot of work into these because you do quite a lot of work on lighting setups as well.
Yes, I experiment with the lighting to get, like this one is a different swamp train
Mm-hmm.
piece, and the tree is glowing green, and the tree is not painted to glow green.
So I think here you've got at least two, three lights, I think. What's your
Uh,
setup like?
yes. It depends. It varies between 6 lights and 2 lights.
Whoa, all right. And these trees have quite they're very atmospheric.
Yes. Those trees are actually very easy to make. I made them with a armature
Mm-hmm.
um, out of what do they call it? That you get. It's in the floral section, and it's
Floral.
wire that's got,
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Floral
floral,
wire. Yeah.
yeah, floral wire. But that's the one that's got like the fuzzy stuff on it. So it actually allows for, because I use glue and PVA glue and toilet paper to make the trunk and
All
the
right.
roots and everything. And I sculpted onto it. It makes it a lot easier to do so.
Okay. Yeah. I used the PVA and toilet paper texture before. It's really good for shaping bark, but I never used it on floral wire. I just went on to raw wire. But I think I agree. If use that kind of fuzzy wire, that would be a lot easier.
Mm.
Ooh, and this is your same tree or other tree?
That it's one of the trees. It was a close up of it, so you can see that there's a lot of detail to them.
Uh huh.
Um, if you scroll down to the next one in the list, that there you go. That one there, you can see the rib cage of the skeleton on the
Yeah.
right side, as well as the skull.
The skull. I can see the ribs and the pieces next to the
Mhm.
finger. Not sure. Is his
Oh, yep,
skull the thing over here?
yep, right
All
there.
right.
Yep, right there. It's just subtle. It's something that your mind will see because we have adaptation to seeing objects and things.
All right.
Well, there's an actual object there, and faces is one of the things we see. Well, there's the skull
Okay.
of an
So
object.
so it's not just horrifying. It's subtly terrifying.
Yes.
And is this coconut fiber or some other plant? Because I know you use a lot of natural materials.
Yes, that is hemp.
All right.
It's just hemp twine that I took out and painstakingly took it completely apart. Cut off a section and just small sections and
Mm-hmm.
peel them all apart, and then do it again and again till I have a container full. And I took it outside and I used Rust-Oleum camouflage paints. They're flat matte paints,
Mm-hmm.
and spray painted all them with all, the greens, the tans, the black, the different colors to make up camouflage, and it looks like real moss hanging from the trees. So
Nice.
it turned out really well.
That's a cool effect. Oh, here the rib cage is a lot clearer.
Yes, it's a little bit more defined. And what I did was, instead of having blood all over it, I did the subtle thing of the tree sap is the same color as blood when it hits the air. So I put that on the tree itself. So there's a little bit of that little bit of color variation. And it's a good way to explain it, of why it looks like it's still wet, I guess you could say.
Okay, and this one is
Yes, that is actually the same swamp terrain on the
okay.
bottom there. But that little house is a 3D print I did from Loot Studios, and
Okay.
I like their stuff. It's great for little things like this. So
Yeah.
it saves time on houses.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and those roots and things look creepy as hell.
Yes,
So this swamp terrain is the same as this one, yeah?
yes.
Nice.
Just the way the light hits it, it changes the way it looks.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Okay, here we
And that is
have,
my master mold for a door I made.
okay.
I saved it. I keep all that stuff so that if I need to make a new silicone cast, I can.
Is that milliput
Saves.
or
Yep.
yeah, alright.
That's milliput. Yes, and it gives really good definition when it finally dries out and harden. It looks like wood to me. It does, at least. At least I tried to.
I mean, it looks good. It's got the texture and stuff, and I love working with milliput myself.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, this is some early painting I had done when I first started getting back into the hobby in 2015.
Okay.
um, and noticed that even the put together models weren't what I was looking for.
In what sense?
This is a drow elf that uses, I think it's supposed to be a magic user of some kind. It's a drow, and like all the little white lines that you see all over, those are all
Hmm.
free-handed done into where
Oh well.
it makes the spider web on his cloak. Just because of the drow and their history of worshiping a demon that presents itself as a spider.
That's a lot of freehand work there.
Yes.
And moving on.
This was a Drider that I got in their Cursive. Oh, is uh, one of the game sets that you can get.
Hmm.
And I repainted him and did the banana color spiders, put like a little heart on his
Yeah.
the front part there. Um, because Driders are, depending on, it could be male or female, and you're not supposed to fall in love, right? Because it's just the way the drow society is. Well, poor individual fell in love, and hence when he took the spider form, um, it gave the I gave it a heart. It's like on Black Widow, it's got the little hourglass.
Yeah.
You know, kind of same concept. And on the chest there, the little spider that's painted on his chest is freehand as well.
Whoa. Okay. I thought it was sculpted.
Yeah, yeah, right there.
Yeah. Seeing the photo, I thought it was sculpted, but it's some really fine work.
Yep. That's what happens when you have time on your hands.
Yeah, I remember when I was still in university, I have some figures where I painted the irises on the eyes on. That never again.
Yeah, right. And then there's just some detailing on the back that I did. I
I
took
like
the idea
the
from the way the banana spider looks.
all right. I like the texturing on the base too.
Yeah, that's literally paint, I think. I just made it look that way. So it looked like
Just
it
paint,
was just paint.
all right?
But I pictured it being kind of like a trapdoor spider of where how the drider would live. So there'd be web all over the floor,
Oh, okay.
so I just painted it that way. I don't know. Stuff like that happens to me all the time. Like I see something in my mind and I don't need to use texturing. I can just paint it that way. But if try to paint something on a canvas, I can't do it. Well, I should say I'm not very good at doing.
No, but I mean these and even the details look really good.
Thank you.
I mean, seeing this, I wouldn't have thought it was just paint.
Yep. The only difference, the paint I used on that one is latex acrylic paint. Your normal paint that you use for painting your house.
Really? All right.
Yeah,
Do you find it
because it
gives?
has a different texture to it. So when you push it with the brush, it does different things, and that's how I created that look.
Oh, all right. That's good to know.
Mhm.
So, Jagelsdorf is saying, I personally found Milliput very crumbly. Anyone else having the same problem?
Milliput does get crumbly. But you have to work with it quickly. And if it does crumble off, you just reshape it to what you want. Because you may not have compacted it tight enough. That's like a problem that I've run into as well.
Okay, what I do to get away from the crumbling problem and also make it cure more slowly is to mix it with Play-Doh. So you mix about 2/3 Milliput and 1/3 Play-Doh. It will cure over 8 hours rather than 1 hour, and it's much smoother to work with. Okay, and Dirtman Brick is saying yes, house paint for the win. Okay, Shawn, are you okay? I think we lost sound or
Yeah,
something.
I'm frozen. I don't know exactly. But let's see. Let me try turning my camera off and turning it back on.
Okay, Campaign Terrain is saying all my base coat paints are made with house paints. I hear a lot of people using them, but I've never tried it myself. I should probably pick up because it's really convenient because and cost effective because a bucket of house paint compared to normal acrylics or artist acrylics are really cheap.
I don't know why I'm frozen. Let me. I don't know what's. Okay, I'll just leave it, I guess.
Oh.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, it's a stream. We have a lot of those. It's not a proper
Okay.
stream if we don't.
This one is an altar. I believe it was made by WizKids, and I just painted it up to look like a sacrificial altar. So, and it comes apart, and you can do different things with it and make it look different. So,
Like the central circle or just literally the whole thing.
well, the top comes off, then it has the center part, then the base has its own design. So you could use the base as
All
a
right.
portal. You could use the center of it with just the top on it, or because it has skulls on it, you can and rib cages and stuff, or you can flip it over and do different things with it. Make it into a table if you need to.
Yeah, that sounds really
It's
versatile.
Mhm.
Okay, Yagelsdorf is asking about house paints. Wouldn't they be super cakey?
Thin coats. Thin coats.
All right.
And usually I like for myself, I use the house paint as the either depending on what type of terrain I'm doing, as the terrain,
Mm-hmm.
the paint you use to put on the terrain, and then you put all your flocking and all your good stuff on there. Or if I'm using it on a model, which you'll see later on in the slideshow here, there are models that I used house paint to do the snow effect on them
Oh,
by
okay.
using the uh, what do you call it? Where you use a big fluffy brush. I can't remember what you call it
Uh,
off the top of my head. Where you pull out the highlights.
Stippling or dry brushing or
Dry brushing.
dry
There you
brushing.
go.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to next thing. But first, if anyone has any of their stuff they want to show off on the stream later, I'm dropping the link in the chat right now. Okay, back to this. Oh, a little torch.
Yes. That's made out of balsa wood and hot glue and the little pieces of wire.
All right, so that's what that tiny rope is there.
Yep.
Wire.
A
All
little
right.
piece of wire. I think it was out of a twisty tie that you get on bread. Because it's very flexible.
All right.
But that right there was my first attempt at trying to make a torch like that to see if I could do it.
I mean, it's got the shape. Did you paint it up later?
Yeah,
And
eventually it'll get painted. It sits in my bit box now because I know how to do it. So
yeah, it's one of those like, okay, wonder if I can do this. Yeah, I can do this now. On to the next thing.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, here we have one of those farmhouses.
Yes, that's a farmhouse that you could find anywhere. That one I used for a swamp with I put the flocking on it because that's all native flocking to the state of Texas.
All right.
The lichen. I harvest that out of my yard,
Nice.
so I have a big bin full of that type of stuff. And so I just made it look appropriate.
I've always had this thing about natural materials like twigs and lichens, and I guess anything which is kind of which can get brittle, stuff like roots and stuff. Do you do anything to protect them, or are they just strong enough to take it?
Okay. Yeah, so that's just what it is. It was something to see if I could do it. Um, I think I got that one. That's the style that Jeremy from Black Magic Craft does in one of his videos of how to make a quick house. And I tried to see if I could do it. And I've made about 8 or 9 of them to figure out the style of the ones I like. I like to use coffee stirrers. That's what
Oh, well, that's what the wood
the
is there. Yeah.
A-frame's made out of. Yes. But the rest of it's the foam and that type of stuff made to look the way it does.
Right. Regarding the flocking and stuff, do you need to do anything to protect it, being natural material? Like, do you just seal it in
Okay.
varnish, or what do you do?
Well, what I do is I harvest it. I turn my oven on to 325 degrees, set the timer for about 3 minutes. After I let the stuff sit out in the sun for a little while, I'll bring it in, put it in to kill any bacteria on it, and 3 to 5 minutes in there is more than enough. Otherwise, you start smelling like burning wood in your house because yeah. So then I take it out, let it dry, and put it in storage. And that's once I glue everything on, I use clear matte varnish. 90% of the time. I do have other varnishes like a gloss varnish and a satin varnish, and like I'll purposely make a piece that is exactly to what I'm doing, and I'll make three of them and try the different varnishes out to see which one I like the way it looks.
All right.
Because when you put lights on it, it gives a different type of glow to the foliage that's on it.
Of course, I didn't think of that because, yeah, with the lights and stuff, you really need to be careful with the glosses and stuff like that.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And this here is my attempts at making floor tiles. They're different colors because you have ones that have more green in them to show that the ground is damp and wet and slimy, and a player could slip on the ground, versus ones that are not, that are just stone.
Hmm.
Um, so I got made a box of different ones that I have enough to do like a decent sized room with them, and or you know a hallway that everything's covered with slime or whatever it may be.
Do you use this a lot? Because I only ever saw you use the larger set pieces.
I used to use those a lot when I would DM at the gaming stores. Because I'd have to bring my stuff with me, and those don't take up a lot of room. But now that I started making the set pieces, I really don't use them much. But I have larger tiles that I made for rooms, so I do use those.
All right. And these are just XPS foam, I guess.
Yes, those are just XPS foam.
All right. I like the different textures on them.
Mhm. That was also me teaching myself that how the textures work and how they look, and how just a little bit of color variation gives a different look.
Oh, for sure.
Because like the one that is on the right side, the first one from the bottom, that is the color that I'm doing my sewer terrain in, um, which will be underneath the water, so it'll give the water that look when the lights are on it.
Okay.
Um, this here is a scenario from one of my gaming sessions at one of the gaming stores. Um, just to kind of show the little monster they're fighting is an actual undead tree from second edition Ravenloft's monster manual. And I tried and tried and tried to find something that would work, and when I couldn't, I sculpted that out of clay.
This works.
Yeah, there's a little bit bigger picture of that later in the slideshow.
Okay, let's see if I can find it quickly. Ooh. This is long way down, or
I believe it is.
all right. Let's
So
just go to
we'll just
the
we'll just go through.
yeah. Aha, Amamit.
Yes. Along with that same campaign, I tried so desperately to find an undead mammoth, because they
Okay.
print them, and all that stuff. That is the beginning of the mammoth that I purchased. I think I got it for a couple bucks.
Was this a
Uh,
kind of plastic toy or something like that?
yeah, it's a toy.
Nice.
And there is me carving, well, where I carved it out and used green stuff to make rib cage and different things.
Okay, this is the where it's
That
been hollowed
yeah,
out, I
that's
guess. Yeah.
where yeah, that's the one of where I carved everything out of it, and I had to actually use wood carving tools because the plastic was pretty tough
Oh,
at that point.
okay. And see, here's where it's painted up.
Yep, that's where it's painted up.
Yeah, it
And
definitely looks disturbing. You would not want to see that wandering around for sure. Oh, I like the blood effect. Blood effect, though.
yes, you can still see the rib cage.
What did you paint that with? Is it some kind of gloss or technical paints or something like that?
That is like some sort of crimson red uh by Army Painter, because that's all the only paint I had at the time. And it was that, and I mixed it with 5-minute epoxy
All right.
and sculpted the 5-minute epoxy on there to make it look like the flesh had opened out,
Hmm.
and expose the rib cage a little bit and that kind of thing.
It's
And it gives a real good effect. I did that a year ago, and it still looks like it's fresh today. So
yeah, it's a very
that
convincing effect.
works. Yes. And then I did the other side of it to where it looks like little spears have gone into it. If you go that one there, where it looks like spears have gone into it, so I could turn the mammoth and use that as if they when they're fighting a mammoth.
So
So I don't have to have two models. I have one model that just by turning it, it's a zombie. The other side is them fighting a mammoth that is still alive,
injured but
but it
survive. Yeah.
shows injured. Yes. So it gives a different context.
Ah, of course, because this is always for the camera, right? So that you just literally need
Yes.
to turn the model around. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. This is a one model that I have from Great Grimoire.
Okay.
Um, I painted her. That was the first time I ever painted something that was translucent.
Yeah, I can see on the skirt over here. That's a very good effect.
Yes. And the next photo is of the same model, but I'm gonna with this, because of the lighting, it washed out all of that work that I did
Ah.
to show the translucent, of her skirt being wet, being dragged through the swamp. Um, so
Yeah,
it was a learning experience for me.
I mean, lighting,
That
lighting for sure is definitely something that I know absolutely nothing about it, and I
yeah,
always fall for problems like this.
I'm going through a crash course of how to do lighting properly.
Oh, right.
So I'm teaching myself of what works for me, because what they say, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. Well, that only works in certain types of situations. So I'm teaching myself to do it the way that it looks good through my eyes.
Yeah, I will definitely be bothering you for advice in future then.
No, not a problem. And that's just the backside of
I really like
the same model.
the flame effects here.
Yeah. Those flame effects are kind of weird because I started with purple and then
Really?
went to blue, then I went to yellow or red, then yellow.
I mean, I think I can see some purple here and some blue down here.
Because yeah, well, when you sit down and you stand at a bonfire, you see blue and
Yeah.
purple, so that I was trying to mimic that of what I've actually seen. And I didn't, I don't look up pictures. I don't do different things unless it's something like I see, on a my Facebook feed or something like that of a picture, like, oh, that's cool. And then I just keep going. And I use my memory of what I saw, like, well, this is the type of effect I'm looking for. I don't go back and reference the photo. I just go from what I remember. So, and these ones here are my first train pieces I've ever made when I came back to the hobby of this type of statue. I mean, I've used cardboard boxes and stuff when I was younger, but this was me actually making um, scatter terrain that looked like the way I wanted it to.
Are these
Not
some
just
of
a
the pre-flogged Christmas trees, or did you cover those themselves? Cover them
those are
yourself?
the pre-flocked ones.
All right.
And yeah, I got those at Dollar Tree here in the US. And one of the things that I found is that they all have different amounts of flocking on them. Some of them look horrible, some of them look great. Well, I actually sat down and went through each and every one of them to this one needs to be redone. I like the way this one looks. This is for a snowstorm. This one is just normal snow sitting on it to it's springtime and it's starting to melt. So I had a wide variety of seasonal change within the winter months that I could utilize.
All right. And yeah, that sounds really strange to me because that sounds like very specific stuff to be putting up as terrain. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, this
Well,
terrain.
for when you play online, being able to change because campaigns can go for long periods of
Mm-hmm.
time. So it allows me to subtly change um, from winter to spring to summer to fall back to winter. So I could actually have that what we would see if you when you walk out your front door of, oh, the trees are starting to bloom, it's spring. Well, the leaves are falling off, it's fall. Up there's snow on the limbs and there's ice. Well, it's winter. I can use that same effect of, well, in the storytelling pattern, I could use, the snow's starting to get where it's extremely wet and damp. It's melting. Well, by doing so, I can put train pieces out that show that there is melting occurring. So now, you know, that avalanche can be real bad.
I just noticed are the bases
Or
different between them?
yes, they are. Every base
All
is
right.
different. They're made with the same materials, but they are all different in uh,
Huh.
shape and size.
Neat.
Some are rounded, some are oblongly rounded. I don't do square bases. Now, like this one here has a frozen pond
All right.
in the center of it there. Um, that one it could be water if I need it to be. If it's that time of the year that water's pooling up inside the snow, you know, which I have seen. So pretty cool.
And are these bones down here or something like that?
No, that's just the ground texture.
Ah, all right. But yeah, I agree what you said about not doing square bases. Those are one of my pet peeves when it comes to terrain.
Yes, they warp, and when they warp bad usually. They'll get a little bit, and then I'll get more, and I'll get more, and then you have to weight it down, and it's just a pain. I've learned to do oval and circles are the best I've found.
Oh yeah, I mean for warping definitely, but even aesthetically, I just don't like the way a square base looks on the table. It looks
Yes,
unnatural.
that and with the oval basing that I use there, there's a complete setup
Uh huh.
that I had done.
With a little dragon thingy.
A dragon lich, the skeleton dragon, and all the bases were made with house paint.
Ah, this is what we were talking about earlier about the.
Mhm.
So, how did you use it here? I mean, uh,
What I did was I used plaster of Paris to make all of the stuff on the bases, and then let it dry. Then did the whole black paint mixed with Mod Podge, so I didn't miss a spot, so it would seal it. And then started using house paint, but I did it dry brushing method to paint the whole entire piece.
all right.
So it built up paint in certain places, so it would give that look of how when snow packs, it looks different and every
Okay.
like as you look across it,
And you dry brushed it
and
all the
it
way
took a while.
from black.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
and it gives that little bit of gray look on the underneath. So in the dark spots or the spots that are real close up, yeah, like on this one, the ridge line is a highlight, and then you have the dark spot for where it's naturally in shadow. So I painted it as it would be naturally in shadow.
Nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it
then
is
put the resin.
it is a lot of work, but that's a very nice
Yes.
effect.
Yeah, for me to make train pieces, it's not overnight adventure. It takes me, depending on what I'm working on, it takes a while. That is a miniature that I did with my daughter.
Oh, all right.
Um, I did the ground texturing and stuff for her, to show that they're in a muddy environment. And then the next photo shows the bow that's strung with the arrow. That is actually a paper clip and a piece of string, a small piece of leather that I tied to the top and bottom and drew it back and actually made the plastic model arch so it looked like it would in real life.
Wait, so
The model, the bow on that
uh-huh.
is actually vertical. It does not have that bend to it the way it
All right.
does. And my daughter painted the rest of it. I just did the cool, made it look cool parts.
But yeah, it's great to see that she's getting into painting. I mean, that's a good base coat.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
This is from my Winter Wonderland set. It's a house that my player characters had found out in the middle of the woods, to potentially take shelter in. But if you look, there's like this little glowing thing that's right there coming out the window.
Uh-huh.
Well, when you have all the black lights on to represent that it's nighttime, that glows real definitive. And they see a light inside the cabin, but they've been in elements for, it could be days, it could be weeks of, where they've been living in tents or they're makeshift, whatever they're, however they're telling their story of how they're living. Um, and then they find a cabin where they could get dry, you know, but there's a little light on inside.
There's no way that's not a trap, right?
But see, that's the thing that I've had it to where that little light on the inside was just the the light reflecting off the ice. So it was their own torch to there's something living in there.
Oh, ha, ha, ha.
So it allows me to use the piece and change the use of the piece over and over and over and over again. So it gets multiple use.
That's a great idea.
Um, Now the difference with this one is the snow on the roof is made out of shaving cream
What?
and
Seriously?
yeah, yes, it's got shaving cream and uh, sand and white paint mixed into it. A little bit
Shaving
of
cream,
sand.
sand, and white paint.
Mhm.
I never heard this recipe before, but uh, how did I thought shaving cream would dry out and go horrible and stuff.
It does, but when you mix it with a little bit of latex paint, the latex in there keeps it all together,
Oh,
so it looks all fluffy and like snow would.
yeah.
Um, it's I came across something I was listening to about a guy that did railroad stuff, and this was his mixture that he uses.
All right.
And I was like, okay, I'll try it, and I like it. It actually allows you to sculpt it, so like it looks like the wind has been blowing, hitting the side of the building, but it's like built up just a little bit on the door, but you can still see the old walk path that was there. So just one of those type of things.
That's neat. It's really neat.
Mhm.
And is it also the same stuff on the ground, or is it?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So shaving cream, sand, and latex paint. Oh, good to know.
Yeah. And there's a picture of it on the backside.
I see there's a little texture on the. Is that what you were
Yeah.
talking about sculpting it, or?
Yeah, the shingles, I actually made each individual shingle and then shaved them down with a wire brush, so they were almost translucent, and then glued them on painstakingly until I figured out that I could do a whole strip of them at one time instead of individual ones. And once I figured that out, then I did that, and then when I put the snow paste on there, it allowed me to sculpt it and get it to where it looked like it had been blown off by the wind in
Hmm.
certain places at certain time, over time.
Okay.
And it also gave me the ability to give it this stone that look that it's really cold outside.
Yeah.
That like how when snow and ice form on stones, it's not it looks different. It has a different texturing to it.
Those lights are they painted on, or is there a light inside the?
There's a light inside
All right.
that I can turn on and off. And then
Close up
there's
of
a
the.
close up of the
Yeah, I
the,
see.
the front door.
I see what you mean about the ice.
Yeah. Now that front door is from a cast that I made.
It's not the same one that you showed us earlier, though, no?
It's a different. Nope, it's a different one. I've got quite a few of them
All right.
because I don't like making doors at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it was fun, but the time that it takes to make a door to make it look real is painstaking.
Yeah, and I hear you. And I mean, you don't want to be making the doors for. You already take quite a lot of time on the details, which is amazing. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, the time you spend on doors could easily be spent doing other stuff.
Yep. And I made the shutters and I glued them on the inside, and then sat with a dental pick and picked at them and to get the look of like shutters because you had storm shutters on the inside and outside,
I,
but the
I'm
ones on the
I'm not
outside
I'm
are
not familiar
gone.
with how that kind of shutter is set up.
So instead of having the shutters on the outside, I put them on the inside,
Hmm.
um, so that I could do that where it has that look like the ones on the outside have fallen away, and there's the ones on the inside or that's left, and they're decaying as well.
All right.
And it also get because of the way the snow mound is, it gave, for the players to where like, one of them could crawl up there to the window and look into through the window because they can see that there's a crack in the shutter. I like to use the environment where people can look at it and be like, oh, well, that's what I want to do. I want to look in that window because there's a crack in it. I don't have to tell them that there's a crack in the window.
Neat.
Mhm.
Okay, what do we have here?
This is another setup I used. Now, all of the train pieces that you're seeing are ones that I've used over and over and over again, just arranged them differently. And then I built a couple pieces that were separate.
All right.
So I have ones that are all trees. I have one that's the one at the top is a cave entrance. If the next one, I believe, is where it's zoomed in on that.
Say again, sorry.
The next picture is where it's zoomed in.
Ah, all right. A second.
Hmm.
Here we go.
See, and so it allowed me to have where you could see inside the cave just enough, but then it gets dark.
Huh. Okay.
And it looks like there's another outcropping in the other cave, like there might be somebody, like it may have been a battlement at one time, a very primitive one, or however, I would describe it. It could have been, what's left of a castle wall
Okay.
or, whatever have you, an outpost of some kind.
Or any kind of old structure, what have you.
Mhm. And this
Okay.
one here is, if you notice the first tile that's got the square but the oval on the end
Yes.
there, that is the cave. So when they entered in the
Ah, okay.
cave, they found the passageway that led them to a crypt.
Alright, so just swap out the train and keep
Hmm.
going. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And I mean, just move it off to the side, so it's not interrupting anything, and just lay the new stuff in. And now with the camera stuff, yeah, I have to do a little bit more. But this is like the first set that I did like that, where it was specifically for something.
Were you playing this in person or was it
Yes.
also over camera? Ah, okay, also in person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a tower that was made on Black Magic Craft, I believe, and there's a stencil that you can get to make where you can use it over and over again.
Yeah,
And
I think I was just wanted to make an infinitely stacking tower.
yes, and I wanted to see if I could do it, and so I did it.
Is that a stormtrooper on the background?
Yes, that is a stormtrooper in the background.
Yeah, they're getting everywhere these
Used
days.
my test miniature to make sure that it was within, for 32 millimeter scale.
I get you.
And that's another stencil you can get to make doors. This is when I first started really making the stuff, and used some skulls and made my there's doors to a crypt or to the castle or wherever that I can utilize.
Hmm. Glow effect too, yeah.
No, that's just paint. No glow affected. They're actually painted silver with very bright red cherry model car paint
Hmm.
to give it that look of, kind of like the Terminator, with the
Yeah,
glowing red
yeah.
eyes, with the silver skeleton. Yeah, there you go. I don't know. I just thought it'd be something different.
This summer, Crypt of the Terminators.
Yes.
Get to the chopper! Oh, it is
There's
the same frame, I think, yeah?
yes, and there's the portcullis.
Which is some granny grating, I think.
Yes, that is granny
Alright.
grading. And that was the monster they ran into because I made it all at the same time. That is a horrible bone golem. That was the first model that I ever made. So it didn't turn out the way I expected it to, but I learned a lot by doing it. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got the effect of, oh crap, that's a bone golem. So yeah,
Yes. Not very gruesome at all, though.
yeah, I mean, you can use your imagination and stuff. It looks
Oh, yeah.
pretty terrifying if you want my opinion on that. Oh, okay. What's this?
So these, okay, so this was a trap that DM Scotty had made, where he used a spike trap that would, I mean, the way he described it, it kills the player, they're done, they're dead, game over. But I added to it that if they made the dexterity save, but failed the dexterity save in context of that they rolled between, 5 and 10,
Uh-huh.
and they may have failed because they needed a 16, but instead of it killing them right away, it caught them in their shoulder and in the outer part of their thigh, so they're pinned against the wall, and then the black pudding that was living on the trap begins to consume them.
Okay, so basically you took an instant death trap and somehow managed to make it worse.
Hmm. And there's the black pudding I made, and then you can see on the trap that it looks like there's something on it, on the spikes.
Yeah, that
So
texture thing, yeah.
yes,
And
all
what?
that texturing is the black pudding or slime or whatever.
Eh. And what's this other thing here?
That is the when it came off of the because there was two of them,
All right.
so you had one trap. There's one trap a little further down the hallway, so it would trap the people inside. So besides it can potentially kill them, it's a man trap. Well, because the black puddings are living on it, I needed a miniature of a black pudding, and all that is me. The black pudding that I made there was me scraping out the inside of the container that I make. Use Mod Podge and black paint mixed together or brown paint or whatever, and literally scraping it all out of the inside of it so it still had that
Oh, seriously?
gooey texturing to it, and just slapped it down and started pulling at it and letting it dry with a fan blowing on it until I got it into the shape I wanted.
All right, that's another thing I wouldn't have thought of. It's like literally the remains of the glue.
Yes.
Nice. That's and again, there's a lovely texture on the base here. Is that just paint again?
Mhm. That's just paint again.
Yeah, did you make paint go a long way, don't you?
Yes, I do. Okay, here's a close up of the undead tree that I sculpted. So that was in one of the beginning slides.
Uh,
That one there is I couldn't find one anywhere. So I busted out the old school monster manual from back in the day and looked at the picture and looked at the picture and said, okay, closed it, and there you go.
what did you make this one out of?
I made that out of air dry clay.
All right,
It was the cheapy
Das, I think,
stuff.
or stuff like that.
No, not DOS. It was the stuff that you get from the Dollar General here. Um, yeah, I have DOS clay, but I was like, if I screw this up with that, I'm gonna have to go get more of it. And it was a 45-minute drive to the store. So I was like, I'll just
All
get
right.
this and use this because it was 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah, fair
And
enough.
there's a picture of me making it. And all the tentacles that are on the or tree roots, those are all made out of green stuff.
Whoa, all right.
So that looks like the roots are coming out to get you, and then it has arms. The tree branches are arms, and you know,
Yeah, to be honest, I think I prefer some of the stuff that was in the Ravenloft creatures section rather than the
yes,
monsters manual because I at some point I really started scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
oh, most definitely. And here's a tent that I had made for the same Winter Wonderland that's a 3D print.
All right.
Um, it was me learning how to 3D print, and I made the tent. I'm like, hey, this works great, and I'm going to use it for this, and so that's what I did. It's I mean, it could be used for a tribe, for a Viking adventure to, there's a tribe of people living in an area and that's their matrion or matriarch or whatever, the wizard, their shaman.
All right.
So,
Okay. Since you mentioned tentacles, you just triggered the dungeon matron again.
oh, geez.
I can see her living in a tent like this though.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
And there's
Tree.
a tree. Yeah. That's a 3D printed tree. Um, there's me learning how to make the basing look proper as well as put the snow effect on it that I had made. So I can get that same consistency between the pine trees to the dead trees to live trees,
Mm-hmm.
just so that I have that same consistency between every tree. There's you can tell they all belong in the same forest.
Yeah, this makes sense. Whoa.
And that is another 3D print that I had gotten the STL for, and I just liked it because they made the base of it look like a skull.
Is that also a tree?
Yes,
Okay.
but like grew around a giant skull, or pulled it up out of the ground. because you know how trees like to do things like that. I mean, I've seen pictures of trees that have bicycles from
Yeah.
World War I stuck in them, or helmets or whatever. So I was like, oh look, giant skull, that works.
Okay, also a
And that's
3D print.
another tree that has a face on it. It was a 3D print, and it also allowed me to, when I sculpted like the one with where I put the skull and the rib cage into it, it allowed me to see an actual like what a 3D rendering would look like with a face in it or that type of thing, to where I can do it myself. I don't need to 3D print everything.
Okay.
So, and that one is the setup of the adventure arc.
Yeah, three very creepy looking trees.
Hmm.
And tent with a potentially a crazy wizard person. Yeah, yeah, this might not go well.
Yeah. Or it might be, a place for everyone to rest and get warm.
It could be.
Never know.
Okay, no, this one I really like. I have no idea what it is, but I really like it.
Um, that's a side view of one of the ones from Loot Studios. Made a candle holder like that, and
All right.
I had to try it out, but I did do my own modifications to it. If you scroll down to the next photo or next slide, there you go. I made the eyes glow.
Because of course you did it.
No, the center of it's hollow, so I just finished drilling the hole into it and made sure it was hollow, and took one of those little dollar tea light candles, the battery operated ones, and
All right.
figured out, put it up in there, and then painted around the light coming through it to get exactly the look I wanted. That's why with the eyes, you see there's like a dark recess
Mm-hmm.
inside the skull itself. That was me utilizing the actual light coming through it to get that look, because
Nice.
that's what I thought in my mind's eye the way it would look. You know,
I love the
and I've
patinated
used
finish here
that.
too.
Yes, that was painstaking to learn how to do that finish, because it was silver when it started.
All right.
To give it that tarnished silver look. And silver doesn't always tarnish the same way. Sometimes it has a copper look to it. Sometimes it has that green look to it. Sometimes it has a black look to it, depending on what
What's
the
stuck to it?
environmental
Yeah. Yeah.
factors are. So I tried to mix all three together to give it the look of the way I wanted it to look. Where it has a little bit of copper showing through in one area, and then it's got the green, and then it's black in others, in the darker recesses.
Yeah, and I love that it's also got the scratch effect going on and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the scratch effect is actually when you print it, it's already on it.
Really? No, I'm
So I
not
just
the
drew.
not the big ones, the smaller ones.
Oh, okay.
Like over here, for example, between these.
Mhm. Um, yeah, that's just because of the way I painted it. Those are actually, I used a brush I probably shouldn't have. Most people would have looked at me like, "Why haven't you thrown that away yet?"
That sounds
And that's why.
like most of my brushes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's just a picture of the whole candle itself.
That looks badass.
Yeah. And the top of it actually lights up blue with a red tinge to it. So it gives that look to it that it's actually lit. And it's just enough, like it's barely glowing. So it could be used, magical means is what's making it glow. It's not actual fire. So it's
Nice.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay. These little guys here are inserts for burial pits and or sarcophaguses.
Okay.
And I took a little same skeleton that I used in the tree, and to make those little guys, cut them up to do this, but I shoved a rock in their mouths on this particular one, because in Eastern in Slavic folklore, they would um, shove stones into the mouths of potential people that they thought were vampires.
Yeah, I think I heard about it. I think it was Venice too, so it's not just Eastern Europe.
Hmm.
Found bodies with half a brick in their mouth and so on. Yeah.
Yes. Bulgaria, there was a big, on one of the Science Channel or something, they had a big thing about where they talked about it, and it was in Bulgaria that they found a lot of stuff like this. But I did dismember you see the legs are kind of just piled up. So they, cut the legs off, they cut the arm off, they shove the rock in its mouth. So it allows me to utilize, like, one of my players was playing a Kinder, which is not in fifth edition, but we made it so that it could be in fifth edition. And he's like, "Oh, shiny object! Ooh, I have to have it!" And he
Is
pulled
that
the
is
rock
that, is that
out.
like the Kinder in Dragonlance?
Yes, exactly, the exact same Kinder. Um, like, "Ooh, shiny stuff! Look, the steak is shiny." Pulled the steak out, pulled the rock out, and within a matter of minutes, it reformed into being a vampire. But I described the tendons first going in, then the veins, then the muscles, then the skin, and got about halfway through it, and my players are just like, "Okay, just tell us the finished product, please, because I am seeing this and I don't like it." It's one of those type, because everyone sees the movies where the guy melts, and uh, Raiders of the Lost Ark, for instance, the guy's face melts.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I described it the other direction. So it was kind of like, okay, that works.
Yeah, Kinder are dangerous creatures.
Yes. And here are some representations of my playing characters that were part of that campaign. Um, you had the, the plague doctor, and then I believe it was a werewolf hunter, and she had a Great Dane. Um, and I've been a fan of Scooby Doo since I don't know. I really can't answer that question. I remember watching Scooby Doo when I was 2 years old. So yeah, it's like, okay, well,
Yeah, that's a
there you go.
perfectly
And
good thing to do.
yes, well, in the paint job I did, there's a whole set of them actually, and it looks like the way that they're painted that they're all the gang, from Scooby Doo. Just in what I thought they would look like,
Yeah.
Shaggy's a plague doctor, and then you have Scooby, then you had, so on and so on, and they all took on their own forms. And as soon as the people that were playing in the game, they saw them, they're like, it wasn't even like that. I want to be Shaggy, or I want to be this one, or I want to be this one. Like, they all knew their names, like, just by the way that they were set out. It was really funny.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Um, yeah, but it gave that, I was able to do the Scooby Doo type, where it's not real dark and scary. It was great for the kids to be able to join in on the campaign without being overly scary or overly descriptive of being gross. So,
Yeah, because you're in a children's game as well, yeah? You've got a children's
yes, I
campaign
do
going
run.
on.
Yes, I run a children's game. I have 8-year-olds that I DM for.
All right.
And you can't be real descriptive with them, but if you give them something they know, like Scooby Doo, you can run the Scooby Doo mystery, and you can throw a little bit of dark twist in it, but it keeps it, still at G rated of, they're just out, trying to hunt down the abomination of a werewolf, which is the next one in the slide, which is part of that campaign. Um,
That's a lot of arms.
yes, it's an abomination. It's a werewolf that was scientifically experimented on.
All right.
So there's that, but it gave him that, that ability to be able to do that. And I didn't overly paint gore into the models either as well for that adventure. I mean, it's still creepy, but it's just not real gory. It's just got that, the light touch of gore, not overly done.
Does he has like two mouths or something like that?
What it is the snout separated, and then the lower jaw separated. So it had like four tentacle tentacles for the mouth, kind of like a. I'm trying to think of a show that.
Like Stranger Things, the first season.
Yeah, like Stranger Things of the first season,
Alright.
or the vampires from Blade 2.
Okay, didn't watch that one.
Yep. Oh, okay. Well, if you get a chance, it's goofy movie, but the vampires are cool
Alright,
because it's a different twist on them.
good to know. Alright.
Mhm.
As long as they're not sparkly.
No, they are not sparkling. That is my Wendigo that I have done, that I've used in multiple different campaigns, even though he was for the Winter Wonderland set. Um, there, I do the Wendigo based off of the native tribes, so it's a good representation, but it's not quite what they look like according to the folklore. They look more human than monstrous. But the way I got around that was to do. They're wearing the skull of the deer on their head. It's like a helmet.
So this would be just some guy with a deer skull on his head, or are
Yep,
they mutated by still kind of look like human?
they're a little bit mutated, but they still have human
All right.
characteristics to them. But that's the best Wendigo I could find, and I believe that's another loot model. And there's a picture of his back.
Uh-huh.
And there's him on the set. That's the reason why I built that set, was just for that little scene right there that took maybe 5 seconds of them first time they see the Wendigo. And then I was like, oh, I could use this for other things. Okay.
Okay, this is the one that we saw earlier, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's just the backside of it to show the detailing in it.
And that stuff is colorful. I think that if you ever make some summer terrain, if you haven't already, this would look amazing.
Yes. And
Okay,
there.
someone's lost an arm.
Okay. So that is a werewolf by Mammoth Studios. It's the same one that does the Abomination. It's from their Skinwalker pack. That is actually a failed 3D print. It failed to print his arm.
All right.
And so I needed a werewolf, and I couldn't think of like a real, like when it failed, and I'm like, crud, I don't have time to print another one because I got to get ready to go. So I took some 5-minute epoxy mixed with that crimson red color and began to, stirred it up, and was just messing with it, figuring, looking at the viscosity of it. And I'm like, I know what I can do. So I took and made to where it looks like the werewolf arm is regrowing from being attacked with a non-silver weapon or magic.
Ha.
And that is what I came up with. There's yeah, there you go. So you can see where I made the bicep, and then it goes up in, or the tricep, and then it goes up into the bicep
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
Oh, that's a hell of a save.
And they're just, there you go. And you can see where the bone, like where it has the bone and the muscle starting to form over it and come out of the side of. I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever.
Ah, it does look cool. It looks badass. It just so, and this started just from a failed print. I mean, that's
Yes. And it was one of those, like, I could use this in my storyline. They fight the werewolf, but none of them, because they're lower level, they don't have any magic weapons. Yeah, the magic user can hurt it, but its arm got lopped off.
Nope.
However it
It grew
happens,
back.
and and they were literally watching it grow back, but because they're having to watch it grow back, they're having to do sanity checks and
Oh
being,
yeah.
horrified because they're watching this happen. So it just immerses them into the story even more.
Yeah, but again, I mean, this thing is this thing looks good.
Thank you.
I mean, and I just can't. I can't believe that. Just sorry, I can't get over the fact that it's just okay, printing failure, no problem.
Yep.
Okay, headless horseman.
And yep, that model is from the Great Grimoire, and I wanted a headless horseman, and I've used that headless horseman in multiple different campaigns. Um, but I wanted the horseman. It seemed fitting because it was I used that with my kid campaign, and all little kids know the story of Ichabod Crane and the headless horseman. So it gave them that adventure, but using the Scooby Doo hook, you know. But they find out that it's a real headless horseman. It's not a person.
Whoops.
Oops. Yeah. There's the horror to it, but that's enough horror for them, you know. But for the adults, it goes a little bit more. It's the same story. It's changed on age demographic. And that is a picture of the plague doctor playing with their potion and pouring it out to, stop the bad guys.
What do you make this goo out of?
That is hot glue.
All right.
And I just stretched it and played with it and got it to do that, and it hardened.
Is that its original color?
No, that's this weird green paint that I have that I painted it with to give it that look. And I thought it looked cool because it looked like some like gooey potion being poured out.
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Okay, and all right.
This is the side of a mountain. Um, Jeremy from Black Magic Craft did something very similar to this. So it also works really well to hold miniatures.
As
So you
a
could have like
display,
a
you mean?
little
Yeah.
setup as a display.
All right.
Yeah. But I use it for mountain terrain, and I could use it for any because it's just very basic. I could use it for postmodern stuff to, you know, D&D medieval fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there isn't anything that says, okay, this is from this time period.
Yep,
A mountain is a mountain is a mountain. It's not going to change very much.
that's right. And that's Tagar that I had that I done up. That was part of the campaign, coming out of the mountain.
Are those marks on his hammer also free-handed?
Yes.
Jeez.
And mind you, I have never taken an art class except for the ones I was forced to in grade school.
Yeah, that's super precise. I mean, if I had to do that, I'd probably use a fine liner pen.
Oh, that was just a paintbrush that I probably should have thrown away.
Love the texture on these walls too.
Thank you.
More werewolves.
Yep, that was from the werewolf encounter. So they were fighting more than one. And I painted them to match the terrain. So just a quick glancing at even with the photo, you can see that where it
Mhm.
almost looks like it's part of the terrain itself, but would be the natural camouflage of the animal. So it can stalk its prey. And there's a waterfall that I made into it, a frozen waterfall, which was painstaking to learn how to do,
Yeah.
but I did it, and it turned out okay.
What is it made out of then?
5-minute epoxy and then multiple coats of paint.
Okay, that must be a lot of epoxy.
No, not really. It was just um it was a whole tube of it, but it was the bigger tubes, not the
Ah, right,
smaller
right.
one, the big one. It was both, the Gorilla Glue 5-minute epoxy, that size. And then there's the whole thing. You're actually seeing right now by the lighting effect that's on there. That is how I painted it
So
by
it's
using lights
what do you mean?
to. Well, okay, you see how there's the gray spot in the
Mm-hmm.
center of it.
Yep.
That is actually from another light hitting the same that object.
Yeah, I think I
So
can
when
see
I
the outline on the cutting mat and the table as well.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so when I went to paint it, I turned the lights on it at different angles, and
Mm-hmm.
that's how I painted it to get the shadowing, to get the things I wanted into it,
Ah,
so
right.
that yeah. Um,
So
I
you
have
built
no
your
idea what
own
I'm doing.
reference over there then.
Yes, I have no idea what I'm doing. It seemed like the right thing to do, so I did it, and it
Yeah.
turned out great.
Yeah, it worked out. Nice. So 1 second.
Yep.
Let's bring you back on screen.
Yeah, I think I'm still frozen. Yeah, I'm still frozen.
Have you tried
That's a
turning?
good look for me.
Yeah, it looks like something is coming up behind you or something like that.
Yeah, like I noticed something.
So you were mentioning your youngest player was 8 years old.
Yes.
Uh, uh, is that a good age to start playing for someone? I mean, can they actually get hold of the game rules and stuff like that?
Yeah. You what I've done is, and I even do this with my adult games, I have taken so much out of all the complexity of the rules for the game,
Mm-hmm.
to where, you roll your first stat, the first, 3 dice that you roll for your strength, wisdom, dexterity, etc., you roll that, and your lowest number out of that three is your plus to all of your modifiers for your strength, wisdom, dexterity, etc.,
Okay.
and then you just roll for your individual ones. So it kind of gives it like this offset, like you don't have like a +6 here or a +4 here or this or that. It's just +1, and it stays that way. My characters only get 25 hit points to start the game. I've toned the monsters down to fit um, that model, to where, yeah, you may have 25 hit points, but you have a festering wound that is killing your character because you haven't treated that wound. You haven't changed your bandages. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. Now they're sick. So I kind of use that, an infected wound from fight being in a fight. You might have all your hit points, but you have that wound
Mm-hmm.
that you have to take care of, that can eventually end up killing your character if you're not careful. And the kids grasp that very quick. It's the adults that are like, wait, what do you mean I have to change the dressing all the time? What do you mean I
Seriously?
have to eat? What do you mean I have to sleep? I've run into that with the adults, because the new style, for fifth edition,
Mm-hmm.
they don't focus in on it. The older editions of D&D had those type. I mean, there's rules for it in fifth edition, but they're always the rules that nobody uses, which I
Okay.
think give the game more of a bite.
Yeah, I guess.
Um, I like the idea that, you're playing, and, the session goes for, 4 or 5 hours. And in that 4 or 5 hour period, they're like, nobody's eaten or drank anything. Well, okay, well, that's going to slowly creep up on you. And I have a chart for that I've made, and that type of thing. But the kids, playing with kids is great, because you tell them, they're fighting the werewolves, and they're like, okay. And, man, the werewolves I made aren't real gruesome looking. And, they're like, well, there's blood dripping from its mouth, and it's got blood all over its claws, and it's coming for us. And, because their imaginations go wild. And it's funny watching the adults watch the kids play because the kids are like, well, I'm going to run at it and I'm going to run up the side of the wall and stab it. You know, it's like, okay, so you run up the side of the wall and, okay, do your dexterity check. Okay, got it. And you rolled for it rolled for it. I don't do attack rolls. I do defensive rolls for the
Mm-hmm.
monsters and or player characters, um, which allows for combat to go real fast because if they get under a 10, it's an automatic fail. 11 through 14 is DM's decision, 15 to 20 is a hit. So it allows for extremely fast combat and it makes it easy for them to understand, oh, if I'm swinging my sword, I add +1 to my die and it's under 10, I still, okay, I failed. But it gets some, it's simple math, real quick, real fast, real down, real dirty, done. Um, but it's funny watching the kids play because they're, well, I'm gonna run up like said about run up the wall and stab it or whatever. And it's like the adult's like, well, I never thought of doing that. I just stand there and it's like, well, it's funny watching the adults imitate the kids because then the adult imagination kicks in and it gets wild at that point. Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's really funny. Sometimes it's like, what are you thinking? But okay, you can do it. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean that's really great to hear because one thing about children that I see these days is that people tend to shelter them probably a bit more than they need to. No, no, you can't watch that. You can't hear about that. Their ears must be protected from these terrible things. And
well, I look at it in that context of, fairy tales, Little Red Riding Hood
oh yeah, good
had
point.
multiple different
Good point.
meanings to it. It has a lot of different meanings to it, but everybody knows the big bad wolf to stay away from them. You know, in context, Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf is a werewolf. A man in sheep, or a wolf in sheep's clothing type deal. So kids know the story, the nursery rhymes. They know all these different things, and it's just great to see that spark of imagination kick in, and then their critical thinking kicks in, and they're like, "Well, I want to do this. Well, can I do this? Well, can you do that? I'm if it sounds cool to me, then they get to do it. If it's like, well, tweak it just a little bit. There you go. Where they use that critical thinking skill because not only do I do games like that, I'll do based off actual historical events, and you might have, it might be taking place in France where they're looking for a loup garou, which is the French werewolf. But it's during the Napoleonic Wars, and they're searching the front line for the werewolf, from whatever army it may be from to destroy it, and it gives that sense of now I'm teaching them about history. Well, why are all the guys set up like that? Why are they in lines like that? Well, because that's how they really were. So it allows them to experience history coming to life in a context, as well as it fits in. They're learning about narration of the story. They're learning about just how interacting with individuals can change the outcome of a story. So it's a great thing to experience. I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy working with the kids. It's fun.
Yeah, it does sound awesome.
Yeah, and it's great, because my daughter, who happens, well, she's 9 now. She's one of my best D&D players, and she's played in my adult games.
All right.
She likes, she's watched Stranger Things and laughs at certain points, and they thinks the monsters are really cool. I'm like,
Yeah. All right.
okay, well, maybe you can't shelter them forever. So I'm controlling how much is coming in.
Yeah, I mean,
If that makes sense.
I grew up on 80s TV, so so most of my friends grew up on 80s TV, and there wasn't
Yep.
much filtering going on there, to be honest.
No, I remember watching Conan when I was a kid. There wasn't much filtering going on. The original Conan.
Yeah, but
My kids still haven't seen it, but whatever, they may not even want to watch it.
yeah, I mean, we turned out okay in the end, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I tell some really creepy stories because of it, but you
Okay,
know,
okay. Evolution of Gaming says, man, this guy is a great ventriloquist. His lips don't even move. Yeah, yeah, he's really good at it.
yeah, yeah, they don't even move, and I've got white eyes. That looks really creepy, actually. Wow. I didn't even notice that until I looked at it. I was like, wow, that's that's pretty bad because it just the way it froze.
Yeah, froze just on the.
It froze just right to where looks like I have white eyes instead of
Yeah, and that's the last we saw of him.
yes. That is pretty cool.
Okay, oh, it's already been almost 2 hours.
Oh wow,
Yeah, I
time
mean,
is flying.
oh yeah, sure it is. Sure is. So, wanna jump in and have a look at the community showcase?
Oh, most definitely.
Alright, let me bring that on.
Yeah.
Hang on. Find it. Ah, here it is. Okay. uh, Campaign today said, yeah, that was the ultimate side eye.
Ah,
Alright, first up. Okay, this is The Spooky Tree by someone called Lawrence Davies. I think we might have heard of him before.
yes. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. These are some. He had shown this before, but these are some better quality pictures. And
Well, see, the way that that photo looks like, though, it looks like look where the tree is growing out of it. That's the skull. The ground is the skull, and then you have the little neck, and then it forms the shoulders of a
yeah, it does
skeleton.
actually. Yeah,
That that turned out awesome. And it was just the angle of that photo that gives it that look.
yeah. But thinking about it, yeah. I mean, it looks great this way, but view.
The angle of the way that photo was taken.
No, I mean, look at the angle. I mean, even it's got the back of the head.
Yeah.
This looks like the upper jaw, and this part
Yep.
looks. Yeah, it really does look like a skull. Oh, spider webs
Yeah, good basing.
and greebly bits. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of detail going on here. Okay, for anyone who does not know yet, this is for the an entry for the Tabletop Crafters Guild. This month's guild build is floating terrain, and it will be. Sorry, the deadline is on the 25th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Saturday
Yes.
25th, which is next Saturday.
Mhm.
So if you haven't finished your entries yet, you should probably be working on those. Not naming any names, but yeah. Ooh, spiders.
Yes.
I see a lot of these skulls from the Games Workshop kit. That's one of the most useful products they ever made. And yeah, these wire ropes are really good. I always waste time trying to make these kind of things out of very thin string or threads, but it never works out. It should just go get some thinner gauge wire. Earthman brick. Ooh, these are nice. I like all the textures and notations in there. What are you going to put on these, Steve? Okay, Jagelsdorf bandits, I guess, or soldiers. Not entirely sure. This orange turned out fantastic. I'm guessing, are these for more time? Okay, Earthman Brick says I was thinking ghouls for the temple bases. Yeah, I think they will look great on those. And made and painted these bases during your stream. Ooh. So yeah, I think these were the chevrons you were casting yesterday. I think they come in parts, and yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about them at some point because yeah, this turned out real good. So Shawn, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Dungeon Matron says I'm working on it. I made a rubber ducky. Yeah, yeah, the rubber ducky is good.
Yeah. All the stuff that everybody submitted looked awesome, I
Oh yeah,
must say.
we had a look at the folder yesterday, and there's some really good submissions in there. So yeah, I think the it will be streamed on DM Scotty's channel next Saturday. So yeah, look out for it there.
Most definitely.
So Shawn, I don't want to keep you too long because it's been yeah, it's literally been 2 hours already, and
Yeah.
Dungeon Matron says, "Where's my ducky picture?" I don't think it's in the community showcase, Lisa. So if you want to throw it in there real quick, maybe we can bring it on again. So yeah, so again, thank you so much for being here today. This has been really interesting streams, and I really didn't see time go by.
Oh, yes, very much so. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem.
Mhm.
Also, you mentioned that you were working on a site and some other stuff for your businesses.
Yeah, I'm working on a website. I don't have it up yet, where I'm gonna have a list of all pictures of all the models that once I print them all, I'm
Mhm.
taking photos of them, so people can see them unpainted, painted, um, and then, of course, the price of them. Um, but it'll allow for, you know, I have my disclaimers, everything. I'm just putting together how I wanted the website to flow. Um, you know,
Okay. Yeah, so definitely as soon as you have a link to that or it's up, just drop it in and just
oh,
send it around to everyone.
most definitely.
But yeah, let's see. Is there a rubber ducky in here yet? Because
Yeah,
it,
I should
it,
have
it really
posted
is
some stuff, but
a cute rubber ducky. Ah, there it is. Yep. Everyone should have a tiny rubber ducky.
wow, that's cool.
I think this is the owner of the duck.
Yep, man in the bathtub.
Alright, this should be interesting.
Yes,
Yep.
that's really cool though.
Yeah, that thing really is tiny. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, the this little part here, which is in the jaws of the bears, is a staple.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah, fine detail.
Yes, very much so. Gonna have to figure out how she made that.
Yeah, I think she shared it on her other post.
Yeah,
So, but we can also always bother her again and ask her.
almost definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to sign off here.
All
Thanks
right.
again, everyone, for. Hey, what happened? I think we lost Shawn there.
No, I'm still here. I was just turning the camera off.
Ah,
That
okay.
was kind of a weird effect.
Yeah, I think it's the virtual camera from OBS. So,
Ah,
oh, things are happening.
but it looks cool. It looks like it just continues on and on and on and
Yeah.
on and on and on. Hey, look, we just came up with something, a technological flaw that looks cool.
Yeah, we just created it looks like a stairway or a portal or something.
Yes. And on that note, have a good day, sir.
And you too, sir. And thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back next week with Dr. Corazani for historical arms and armor research. So yeah, if you like swords, axes, maces, muskets, and that kind of thing, that should be right up your street. And the week after that, we're going to have another history stream with Professor Buttigieg, who will be talking about magic and superstition. So, thanks everyone for watching, and have a great day.